Sometimes our perception of time can deceive us. Sometimes it feels like much more time has passed since the important events in our lives took place. It's like this for me when it comes to first two Metro games. I don't even remember if I read books before I played the games or after. It all seems like a blur twisted by some twisting nether, somewhere deep in time and space. What does your crazy talk has to do with anything, you may ask? But it has, because maybe, just maybe, when the things happen doesn't really matter. But what matters is that they occurred in the first place, and how they have imprinted in our consciences. It seems now like I played Metro Last Light so long ago that it looks like it was in different life. But it was around 11 or 12 years ago in fact. Last time we concurred that the first game titled Metro 2033 was very good indeed, and technically exceptional, even for today's standards. Is Last Light the same, or did it fade into obscurity? Let's find that out. The story in the game takes place 1 year after the events in Metro 2033, so simple math tells us it's year 2034. The plot of the game concentrates more on the dark side of human nature, as the conflict between factions is front and center here. We see the abstract of Nazi and commie cultures, or rather anti-cultures. You need a strong stomach and mind to go through some scenes. It is not some sort of ugliness here and there, but it is genocide done in very specific ways. And also the visual description of how dead bodies are treated. Anyone who knows 20th century history well enough will tell you that such things cannot be engaged lightly. If I said that the first game was only for mature adults, the second one is for very matured ones. The ones who went through the unpleasant, to say the least, process of watching photos and videos from so-called death camps. I know it's some very heavy stuff, but it is what it is. By playing Metro 2033 just before Last Light, I noticed that there are some logical errors in the story told. I wish there weren't any. I wish that was checked thoroughly, but it's there, regretfully. Moreover, the plot at the start of the game is not so strong, and secondary characters repeating over and over that he will show us the way, it was kinda disappointing. I expected much better writing. Previous game was much more thought through in that aspect. All in all, we play as Artyom again, and we have to save Moscow's metro again. In this one, we can hear the voice of conscience more clearly, which I dislike because it is only one step from moralizing and patronizing players. Writers were walking on thin ice in the second game. But the player not only lives and dies by the story presented in the game. There's also gameplay to be played. Last Light is both harder and easier than 2033. Harder because you need to execute stealth segments better than before, because there is way more enemies that will be alerted when the alarm is raised. Easier because if you execute stealth segments good, it's a walk in the park. On the other hand, the parts when you fight mutants are much more brutal and will drain your ammo supplies even on normal difficulty in some segments. Combat is a slightly improved version of the one from the previous game. Audiovisual feedback was improved so it feels better than in first one. This time around we have some DLC missions, 9 of them to be precise. Most of them are not very good. I like Spider Lair for the sheer horror of the situation. To sum it up, gameplay is almost the same as in Metro 2033, with more stealth and less open shootouts. Yeah, no point in prolonging the description that can be done in just several sentences. So let's jump into the technical aspects of this production. And boy oh boy, I was again shocked, because Last Light was even more impressive in that regard than the original game. It has way more details in the environments you roam through. It is mind-boggling how good this game looks. Surface locations now, when snow is gone, look more detailed and way better than their snowy counterparts. I could not believe it, but the lights and shadows were even better than in previous title. Animations are improved as well, which you can see mostly when fighting enemies, how they move and how they react to being damaged. It still amazes me how good the basic anti-aliasing in this game is. I would pick that over the bad implementation of temporal anti-aliasing that takes us away too far from the ground truth of intended image every day of the week. I don't know what so many developers do at their work, but I'm sure as hell that they do not strive for improving anti-aliasing by any means. Bloody fuck, I, even as many others like me, edit simple config files to drastically improve it in some games, and yet those buffoons can't take a few hours out of long years of development in order to test and set the parameters for anti-aliasing right. I would be ashamed if I were in their shoes. Shame. 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 At this point I'm convinced that Metro Last Light Redux looks better than almost all games released in the last several years. This is madness. But what about the audio side of the game? So sounds are improved from the previous title, but the spatial audio has still too much differential compared to positioning. Music is more in the tone of survival horror, which improves the jump scare effects and overall tone where needed. Well done indeed. Voice actors do a great job in this one, as I really believed in their performances.
Baby. The boys even gave her a name. You can't help but fall in love with her. She did a swell job running refugees, but hell, you can't save everyone.
To be completely fair, I have to notice the fact that the game crashed several times back to desktop without any error message. First one never crashed in any way whatsoever. My time counter bugged out, so I don't know how exactly many hours it took to finish the game, but it felt like it was several more than Metro 2033, so I would guess around 12 to finish the main game without DLC missions. This might be the shortest review I have ever written, but there's really not much to talk about when I just recently published a review of a previous game in the series, so short story short, I can recommend Metro Last Light to all very mature adults. Why very mature? Because there are moments where you need to understand why such horrible things were depicted in video game, and that takes someone who has been in struggle with hard topics before. I also like to thank all the people who worked hard to make this game. It is truly a great title that will be enjoyed by players for many more years. I just wish we could have more games like this one. Maybe that wish will come true in upcoming years. Who knows what the future will bring. But presently I can only say that I will see you in the next Great Late Review.